The acceptance letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, tucked between a water bill and a pizza coupon, as if the universe hadn't quite decided how seriously to take it. Luna Mercer held it with both hands at the kitchen table, reading it 3 times. Cornell University, Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering. Full academic scholarship consideration, pending financial aid review. She'd worked 4 years for this, the 4 gigapascals, the robotics club, the AP classes she'd taken while working weekends at the pharmacy on Miller Street. She'd done everything right. She was 18, the eldest daughter of Dale and Patricia Mercer of Clarksburg, West Virginia, and she had built her future brick by careful brick. Her parents were not wealthy people. Dale drove a delivery truck. Patricia managed a dry cleaning shop 3 days a week, but they had saved quietly, consistently, a college fund of $47,000 over 15 years. Luna had watched her mother clip coupons and her father skip lunches to build that number. She never asked for it directly. She never needed to. It was understood, the way some things in families are understood without words. This is for you. This is for your future. Her sister, Madison, was 2 years younger and had always been the family's unspoken favorite, not out of cruelty, but out of something softer and more dangerous: instinct. Madison was louder, funnier, quicker to cry, and quicker to laugh. She filled rooms in ways that Luna, quiet and careful, never quite could. Luna had accepted this long ago. The way you accept weather. That April evening, their parents sat both girls down in the living room. Dale cleared his throat twice. Patricia kept smoothing the front of her blouse. "We need to talk about the college fund," Dale said. Luna nodded, already reaching mentally for tuition numbers, housing costs. "Madison's been accepted to the Performing Arts Conservatory in Nashville," Patricia said. Her voice carried a brightness she wasn't even trying to disguise. "The tuition it's significant. And the opportunity, we're going to use the fund for her program," Dale finished. The silence that followed was the loudest thing Luna had ever heard. She looked at her father, then her mother, then her hands in her lap. "The whole fund?" she asked. "The program is 3 years," Patricia said quickly. "Madison has real talent, Luna. You know that. And you're so capable. You'll figure it out. You always do." She said it like a compliment. She meant it as one. Luna didn't yell. She didn't cry. She asked, very quietly, "Was this decision already made before you sat me down?" Neither parent answered. That night, Luna lay in her childhood bed, staring at the water stain on the ceiling she'd memorized at age 7. She could hear Madison in the next room, on the phone, already talking about Nashville, about auditions, about a life being handed to her in both palms. Luna had applied to Cornell on the financial aid track. Without the family contribution, the gap was $31,000 per year. Loans were possible. Working full-time while studying engineering was possible. But the message her parents had sent unconsciously, lovingly, devastatingly, was not about money. It was about which daughter's dreams were considered real. She pulled the acceptance letter from under her pillow and read it one more time by the thin light beneath her door. "You have been selected based on exceptional academic merit and demonstrated potential." Someone believed in her potential, just not the 2 people who were supposed to believe in it most. She folded the letter, set it on her nightstand, turned off the light, and somewhere in the dark, behind her eyes, something that had always been warm began very slowly, very quietly, to cool. Luna enrolled at West Virginia University on a combination of federal loans, a partial merit scholarship, and a second job at a campus cafe that started at 5 in the morning. She told herself this was fine. Millions of people paid their own way through college. She would be one of them. What she hadn't accounted for was how loudly her family would celebrate Madison's journey while pretending Luna's was simply happening. Every Sunday call home became the same ritual. Madison's first recital, Madison's new instructor, A real professional, Luna, trained in New York. Madison's apartment in East Nashville, which Patricia described in detail Luna hadn't been asked to provide about her own dormitory. Her parents weren't malicious. They were, in the specific way of people who've never examined their patterns, completely blind. Junior year, Luna's loan servicer sent a notice. Her federal aid had been recalculated. The gap had grown. She called her parents on a Wednesday night, something she rarely did midweek. "I need $8,000, she said, "just as a loan. I'll pay it back. I'll put it in writing." Her father went quiet in the way she had learned to dread, not mean, just absent. Like a signal dropping. "Luna, we're stretched right now," Patricia said. "Madison's third-year tuition." "Mom," Luna's voice was flat. "I'm asking you to loan me money so I don't have to drop out." "You won't drop out. You're too smart for that." She didn't drop out. She picked up a third job tutoring engineering students on weekends. She ate rice and canned beans for 11 weeks. She lost 14 pounds and didn't tell anyone. She developed a stress-related eye twitch that lasted 4 months. She graduated in 4.5 years with a 3.89 gigapascals, $74,000 in student debt, and no ceremony her parents attended because Madison had a showcase that same weekend in Memphis. They sent a card, "So proud of our girl." Patricia had drawn a small star next to her signature. Luna moved to Austin, Texas, because a mid-sized tech firm there had offered her a junior developer role at $68,000 a year. She furnished her studio apartment with secondhand furniture and a secondhand attitude functional, stripped of sentiment. She called home less, then rarely, then almost never. What finally broke her wasn't drama. It was a photograph. She saw it on Patricia's social media page, a family gathering her aunt's retirement party, which Luna hadn't been told about. Her parents flanked Madison, who was beaming in a yellow dress. Her father's arm was around Madison's shoulder. Her mother's face was tilted toward her youngest daughter like a sunflower finding light. Luna stared at that photograph for a long time. She wasn't in it. She had simply not been in it. Not in the photo, not in the invitation, not in the conversation about who should be there. She set her phone face down on the desk and sat very still for a very long time. Outside her window, Austin went about its business traffic, music, the indifferent hum of a city that didn't know her name. Luna was 26 years old. She had a debt she'd built alone from a theft she'd never named. And she finally stopped pretending that what her parents had done, the slow, smiling, well-intentioned erasure of her, was anything other than what it was. The cooling thing inside her finished cooling. Now it was simply still and hard and ready. She didn't decide on revenge the way they show it in movies. No mirror scene, no dramatic moment of declaration. It came to her the way serious decisions usually do, gradually, and then all at once. During a perfectly ordinary Thursday morning commute, she was listening to a podcast about compound interest, and she thought, that's it. That's exactly it. Not fire, not confrontation, not the screaming match she'd replayed in her head 1,000 times. Compound interest. Let time do the work. Let every choice she made from this point forward be a deposit into a future her parents would one day need to look at directly. Luna was, above all things, a strategist. She started with herself, not because she'd read a self-help book, but because she understood systems, and she was the first system that needed optimization. She paid off $11,000 in debt in 14 months by eating like a monk and working like she had something to prove, because she did. She requested a mentorship program at work and was paired with the company's head of product architecture, a woman named Carla, who recognized Luna's precision and matched it with opportunity. Within 2 years, Luna was a senior developer. Within 3, she was leading a team. She moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with clean lines and a view she'd earned. She bought exactly one indulgence, a quality espresso machine. Every morning, she stood in her kitchen making coffee, thinking. The moral conflict was real. She wasn't a cold person. That's what people misunderstood about quiet people. She had spent years asking herself whether her parents deserved forgiveness, whether the wound was real or manufactured, whether she was the villain of her own story. She gave that question the serious attention it deserved. She sat with a therapist named Dr. Okafor every other Wednesday for 14 months and told the whole truth. "What do you want from them?" Dr. Okafor asked once. Luna thought about it carefully. "I want them to understand what they cost me," she said. "Not to punish them, to make them understand. And if they can't, then I want to be so far past needing them that their understanding becomes irrelevant." She chose both paths simultaneously. She stopped answering her phone when they called, not out of cruelty, but because every conversation pulled her backward and she was only interested in moving forward. She built a wall of polite distance, birthday texts, brief holiday calls, no information about her actual life. She also built other things. She enrolled in night courses toward an MBA, paying cash as she went. She began investing slowly, intelligently in index funds and one small tech startup that a colleague had vouched for. She made herself a 5-year plan, then a 10-year plan. Then she filed them away and simply worked. She was not waiting for revenge. She was becoming it. Madison's conservatory career lasted 2 years past graduation. Luna found this out not from her parents, but from a mutual cousin who texted her one October asking if she'd heard. Madison had moved back to Clarksburg. The performance work had dried up. She was waitressing at a place called Harmon's Bar and Grill and, according to the cousin, going through some stuff. Luna felt something complicated, not satisfaction, not guilt. Something more like watching a weather prediction prove accurate. What came next arrived in the form of a phone call from her mother on a Friday evening. Patricia's voice was different, smaller. "Luna, we need to talk to you about something. It's financial." Her father had suffered a mild heart attack. He was recovering, but he couldn't drive anymore. The delivery job was gone. Patricia's dry cleaning shop had closed during COVID and never reopened. They had $14,000 in savings and a mortgage they were behind on. Madison was helping what she could, but Madison was struggling too. "We were wondering," Patricia said, "if maybe you could—" "How much?" Luna asked. A pause. "We're about $23,000 behind on the house." Luna said she would think about it. She was very calm. She spent the weekend thinking, genuinely thinking, not performing the process. She opened a spreadsheet because that was how she processed the world. On one side, what they had taken. On the other, what she was willing to give. Not because she owed them, but because she had to decide, with clear eyes, what kind of person she was going to be once this was over. Then she called back. "I'll help," she said. "I'm going to fly out. I need to see the situation in person." She flew to Clarksburg on a Tuesday. She sat at the same kitchen table where, 12 years earlier, her parents had dismantled her future with the best of intentions. She placed a folder on the table. Inside, a formal loan agreement, drawn up by a paralegal she'd hired. "This is $23,000, she said. 5% interest. Repayment terms are flexible, but binding. It's a legal document." She looked at her father, then her mother. "I need you to understand that this is what a loan looks like when it's given by someone who loves you but has been hurt by you. This is what accountability looks like in a family." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Her father stared at the folder. "Luna," Patricia began, "I also need you to understand something before you sign it." Luna's voice was steady, not angry. "I graduated from WVU with $74,000 in debt. I missed my aunt's retirement party because I wasn't invited. I called you once, from my junior year, asking for $8,000 as a loan, and you told me you were stretched because of Madison's tuition. She paused. "I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm saying it because you need to know what happened." The silence in that kitchen was thick enough to hold. Her father, who had always been a man of fewer words than necessary, said quietly, "We didn't see it." "I know," Luna said. She slid the folder forward. "Sign it or don't. But either way, I need you to see it now." They signed the agreement. Luna stayed 3 days. She helped her mother organize their finances, quietly stunned to discover exactly how depleted things were. She sat on the porch with her father one evening while he recovered his strength, and they talked, really talked, for perhaps the first time in their adult relationship, about the delivery routes he'd loved, about her work in Austin, about things that had nothing to do with the wound between them. On the last evening, Madison came by. Luna hadn't seen her in 5 years. Madison looked older than she should. There was something worn around her eyes, a tiredness that performing arts dreams leave behind when they go. She stood in the doorway of the kitchen, looking at Luna, the way people look at photographs of themselves they don't quite recognize. "I'm sorry," Madison said, "for what they did, for what I let them do." Luna looked at her for a long moment. "Did you know?" Luna asked. "Back then, did you know what it cost me?" Madison sat down slowly. "I didn't let myself know," she said. "And I think that's worse." It was. It was worse. But it was also honest. And Luna had developed, over years of building herself alone, a deep and involuntary respect for honesty. They didn't hug. They didn't cry. They sat at the kitchen table and drank coffee. And Luna told her about Austin, about the startup that had recently returned a quiet 220% on a modest investment, about the espresso machine and the clean line apartment and the life she had assembled, piece by piece, from the rubble of what she'd been handed. On the flight back to Austin, Luna sat with her hands in her lap and looked out at the clouds. She had expected to feel triumphant. She had planned for triumph the way she planned for everything, patiently, thoroughly. But what she actually felt was quieter than that, and more complicated, and surprisingly close to peace. The money would be repaid. She didn't particularly care if it was. What she had gone to Clarksburg to collect wasn't $23,000. It was the truth, spoken aloud at the table where the lie had first been made. She thought about Dr. Okafor's question, "What do you want from them?" She'd said, "Understanding." And if not understanding, then distance. What she'd gotten was something she hadn't planned for, the strange, specific grief of watching people you love finally see you clearly, years too late, in the ruins of everything they built instead of you. Her mother had walked her to the car and gripped both her hands and said, with tears that were completely real, "You deserved better than us." Luna had not told her she was wrong. She had also not told her she was entirely right. The plane descended into Austin as the sun finished setting over Texas, painting the sky in colors too beautiful to be fair. Luna pressed her forehead briefly against the cool window. She had spent 12 years building a life so solid that the people who had failed her would one day need to look at it and know, simply, undeniably know, what they had almost prevented. She had not burned anything down. She had built something up. And somewhere in the difference between those two choices lived the only revenge worth taking, the kind that transforms you into someone the wound never could have created if it hadn't tried so hard to destroy you first. The most devastating thing you can do to the people who underestimated you is not to make them suffer. It's to make them witness, in full clarity and too late, exactly who you became without their belief.